Take.
Flat Rock, written by H. Paul Cote and read by Logan Beavers. Have you ever been thinking about going camping? I would advise against staying at the Flat Rock RV Park. There have been rumors circling around about people going missing and the ritualized remains of others being found. Some even say the perpetrators are ancient ghosts of Indians that died on the Trail of Tears. The book has 189 pages and 145 pictures. I need to get up there where he's at before he jumps out of his truck and tries to make a run for it. Nevertheless, I lost sight of his tail lights when he went around the curve up on the road. I need to step back on the gas pedal and keep an eye on his tail lights. He could stop anywheres up there and jump out and run. Blackbone showers down on the gas. You can feel the back end of his truck start to slide. The road is still slick from the rain. He can see Levi's taillights again. Once again, I'm going to back off a little bit and give him a chance to think about driving around the big tree limb. I can see his truck darting off to the left side of the road. I believe I will go for it. He could drive around the tree limb to the ditch, but I do need to keep in mind that he may not get stuck. In this case, I need to get back on the gas real heavy and get up there fast. I may have to bump him into the side again, sending him into a spin. Blackbone looks up in his rearview mirror to make sure no one's coming up behind him. He looks back down at the windshield. He sees he's getting closer to the tree limb. Blackbone notices Levi's taillights are not moving. He must be stuck. As he got closer, he rolled his window down. He can hear Levi's motor tacking up and his tires spinning radically. Levi turns and looks out his back window at Blackbone. He's fixing to run. Blackbone steps on his gas, turns his wheel to the right, and hits his brakes. He slides as his truck comes to a halt. He grabs the door handle and pulls it up. Pushing his body into the floor, it flies open. I know I have to work fast. If I don't, he will get away. As soon as his feet touched the ground, he could see Levi opening his door. He got within 20 feet of his truck and pulls out his pocket pistol, raising it up. Blackbone hollers out, "Don't move! Don't move! I will put a hole in you!" trying to intimidate him, for he knows the spirits need Levi alive to complete the sacrifice. I said, get down on your knees! Now! Down on your knees! Levi gets down on his knees, now shaking with fear, and he mutters out, "Don't shoot me! Don't take me back over there! Please, I beg of you, don't hurt me!" Taking a step towards Levi with the growling in his voice, I said, put your hands behind your back, now! Don't make me come over there and do it for you. Levi didn't hesitate to submit, as he shielded his head with his arms. Blackbone walks up to him. Look down at the ground. He can see Levi still trembling and muttering aloud. Please, please don't hurt me. Please don't shoot me. Please just let me go. As his eyes were locked down to the ground. Blackbone puts the gun on safety, turns it over, and grabs it by the barrel. Now he takes his right hand and brings it up into his left shoulder. He swings down, high speed, hitting him in the base of the neck. Levi rolls over onto the ground, a little grunt as he passes out from the pistol whip. Blackbone goes back over to his truck and opens the passenger door, looking in his glove box and grabbing a handful of zip ties. He's quick to be back to Levi before he wakes and is gone. Levi hasn't moved yet. It may be a good hour before he wakes up. Blackbone reaches down and rolls him over to his stomach, pulling his two arms around his back. He places a zip tie around one wrist and then using another zip tie, he runs around the other wrist, which goes back to the first zip tie. Then he pulls them both tight. Blackbone steps and does the exact same thing to his ankles. Blackbone stands up and leans back to stretch. What a morning. I have sure earned my lucky stars for the day. He gives a twisted grin along with a little laugh at his joke. But Blackbone knows he isn't through. I've got to get rid of this truck and his and get him back over to Flat Rock. He kneels down and picks him up, putting Levi on his shoulder. Then he carries him back to the bed of his truck. He opens the tailgate and lays him down in the back. pushing him up toward the cab and making sure to slam the tailgate. I need to get rid of his truck before some hunter comes along and stumbles onto it. Of course, at this point, they should think it's just another hunter that got stuck and slid off the side of the road. Thinking cleverly, but I will have to take my truck and cross over the tree log on the other side of the road. Let me see what I can do. He makes it back over to his truck and looks over to the bed. Levi's still out, unless he's faking it. Any way it goes, he's not going anywhere. Blackbone cranks up his truck and backs up a bit, looking down to make sure it's still in four-wheel drive. He backs up, pulling up to the other side of the road, enough to be about 8 feet from the log. With his mind in gear, he mashes the accelerator. When the two front tires of his truck come in contact with the big log, they bounce up in the air just a little bit. Blackbone hits the accelerator again, setting the two tires down on top of the log. Now, all I got to do is do that one more time. He begins to ease forward just a little bit, letting his front tires roll to the ground. He hits the gas again. The back tires come in contact with the big log, and they again jump in the air. Blackbone hits the gas just enough so the back two tires would be on top of the log. Now he gives a little more gas, letting the back tires roll to the ground. He pulls around to the front of his truck, facing it. He steps out, looking behind his seat for his chain. He walks back around to the front of the two trucks, takes the chain, goes around Levi's bumper, and pulls it tightly over to his bumper, wrapping the chain around his hook underneath. I almost forgot. I need to put his truck in neutral. Once completely set up, he starts pulling his truck forward, all the way down to the gate. He gets back in his truck and turns to look out the back window. The old hodgepodge hasn't moved yet. Blackbone puts his truck in reverse and starts giving it some gas. His tires spin just a little bit at first, mud slinging everywhere. His truck begins to come out of the muddy ditch and on around the tree. He continues to try to pull Levi's truck forward. The truck keeps veering off one way or the other, so Blackbone stops and opens up his glove box and grabs a small rope. He walks back over to the other truck and opens the driver's door, grabbing the steering wheel and turning it. He looks around his door to see if the front wheels are straight now. Then Blackbone ties the rope to the bottom of the steering wheel, very tightly pulling the other end of the rope under his seat. He wraps it around the seat spring and pulls it very tight. Then he ties it off. Closing Levi's door and going back to his truck, he continues moving along a lot faster now. From time to time, Blackbone looks in his rearview mirror to see if Levi is still unconscious, checking on him, making sure he is still alive. Making good time, even with the pull. It wasn't long until he saw the gate. Blackbone reaches in his pocket and gets out the key for the lock. Then, unlocking the gates and leaving the chain on one of them, he pushes both gates open. He has to trudge through the mud back to his truck. He hops back up on the seat and puts it back in drive, pulling forward enough to get his truck in the gate, as well as the one he is pulling. He jumps back out of the truck and walks around, closing both gates and linking the lock through the chain. Now I'm starting to feel a little more secure, being that I'm on the side of the gate and it's locked, and I'm also up on some hard gravel drive. He walks back around, jumps back in his truck and continues on around the drive. This seems like it's taking up the bigger part of the morning. It's a good thing I locked the store. I would have nothing left over there. Next will be the fun part. Well, not really. He pulls Levi's truck around a curve in the road, right next to the cliff. It's going to be somewhat tedious, but at the same time, it's doable. Blackbone begins pulling the truck. When he gets to his first turn, his truck tries to go straight. He has to stop, get out, and take the chain off his trailer ball. He repositions his truck and pulls the front end of his vehicle, sliding it over to one side, away from the cliff. When he gets set up, the chain tightens. Then he gives his truck some gas. It begins pulling his truck away from the cliff edge. That was a close one. He stops the truck and jumps out, taking the chain back off his trailer ball. Then he gets back in the cab. He moves his truck back and forth, back up to Levi's bumper, jumping out again and hooking the chain back up to his trailer ball. He continues pulling slowly and around the curve, stopping from time to time. He pulls Levi's truck back away from the cliff again as he makes his way on around the curve. Blackbone sees the part of the cliff he likes to use, what I call the runway. He gets next to it and stops his truck. He looks in the back once again. With a sneer on his lips, he chuckles. Fresno Bob is still out for the count. I like using a little boxing terms, and I meant to say Levi. He is so ready to get done with this job that he knows if he shortcuts it, something could go down wrong, and he does not need that. When Blackbone jumps out of his truck, he quickly runs around to the front, disconnecting both chains and putting them back behind his seat. Then he walks back over to Levi's truck, cranking it up. I just need to do the same routine as usual, but this time when I put it in gear, I want to check the door to make sure it's unlocked before I take off heading down the runway. He begins backing the truck down the runway. This time he won't have to go behind the tree since he doesn't have a camper in tow. He pulls it out in reverse and puts it in neutral, then reaches over and unlocks the driver's door. He rolled both the windows down and revs up the motor, reaching up and grabbing the shifter and putting it into drive. He hits the gas and the truck begins peeling out, slinging anything in its way, moving forward fast. Blackbone takes his left hand and reaches down, quickly opening the door. Using the palm of his hand, he starts to push the door open. He approaches the cliff. When he gets around 60 miles an hour and about 25 feet away from the cliffside, he pushes the door open with his shoulder and takes a jump. He sails into the air and rolls onto the ground. Blackbone can hear the roar of the motor as the truck flies past him. A second or two after that, he hears a big splash. He rolls over to look down the cliffside. The truck is becoming submerged in water. Blackbone lays there, watching the ripple in the water as they become calm, like it never even happened. Except, of course, for Levi being in the back of the truck. He feels somewhat relieved knowing his job is about done. All I got left to do is get Levi back to the park. He stands up and walks over to his truck, opens the door and sits down on the seat. If I leave him in the back of the truck and head back to the store, he could easily wake up and see somebody passing by. He might manage to get up on his knees and holler for help. After thinking about that, I believe it would be best to get him out of the bed of the truck. I'll put him up here in the cab, down on the floor, keeping his hands and feet tied, and I'll lay my gun on the seat to help intimidate him from doing something stupid. No doubt that's just what he did. He went around there and opened up the tailgate. He felt something on his head and shoulders. It's beginning to sprinkle. That should cover up any tracks that I left behind, he said gladly. He makes his way back towards the tailgate and opens it. He reaches up and grabs the bottom of Levi's legs and begins pulling. He starts to wake up, so Blackbone pulls him on back. Then he reaches over and grabs Levi around the wrist. Then he reaches over and grabs Levi around the waist, picking him up on his shoulder. He puts one hand over his legs, holding them, keeping him from falling. Then he reaches down with the other hand and closes the tailgate. Blackbone walks around to the passenger door. Levi is beginning to squirm a little bit. Okay, man, okay, lay still. When Blackbone pulls the truck door open, he sets Levi on the seat and looks him in the face, then pulls out his pocket pistol. Levi's eyes go wide, raising his tied hands up in front of his face as if to shield himself. Please, no! Don't shoot me! He sobs a bit, shutting his eyes tightly. Please, just let me go! Don't give me any trouble. I don't want to use this on you, but I will if I have to. Do you understand? I want you to get down on the floor and you lay still, or you're going to feel some hot lead in you. Have you ever felt hot lead? Levi lets out a groan, shaking his head slowly. He wants to try something, but the gun right in his face is much more just frightening. It's much more than just frightening. And besides, with the zip ties on him, what exactly could he do? Blackbone gives the man an evil-looking sneer, his dark eyes telling him that he would definitely shoot him if he had to. Well, let me tell you, hot lead burns when it's spinning, drilling its way into your flesh and then down into your muscle. And if it's a hollow point, the lead will split open on impact like a fan, cutting things up as it's spinning into you. So just lay there. Don't make me use my gun. Blackbone stands back and slams the door shut. Levi just lays there, unable to do anything really. He walks back around to the driver's side. Grabbing the steering wheel, he pulls himself in. Then he starts the truck. He sees the rain has picked up a good bit, so he clicks on his wipers. It is time to get out of here He sees the rain has picked up a good bit, so he clicks on his wipers. It is time to get out of here very carefully. He eases the vehicle on back around the gravel road, making his way to the gate. Of course, he has to unlock it once again. He pushes the gate open, drives through, and gets back out on the run, gets back out to run the chain back through the two gates to lock it again. He eases the vehicle on back around the gravel road, making his way to the gate. Of course, he has to unlock it once again. But as Blackbolt makes his way back to his truck, he sees the passenger side door is open. He curses under his breath and pulls out his gun, breaking into a run to find Levi. While his captor had been busy messing around with the gate, Levi had been digging around in his pockets for his knife. Luckily for him, Blackbone hadn't bothered to search him. In his absence, Levi had cut the wrist and ankle bindings and quietly made his escape. Of course, Levi didn't really know where he was. He was just running for his life at that point, hoping and praying he could put enough distance between the Indian and himself. He had already escaped spirits. Surely he could get away from a human, right? Thoughts ran through his head. Where should I run? Where am I? Can he track me through all this rain? As he plodded through the muddy terrain, he looked back and saw that despite the heavy amount of rain still falling, his tracks were still pretty damn visible in the morning light. Shit! He's going to be able to find me. All he had to defend himself with was a 3-inch long box cutter. At least though he was making it into a wooded area, but it was fairly swampy looking with all the rain that had been coming down lately. After about a good 10 minutes of running, he sat up beside a gnarly looking tree, lying desperately to catch up his breath. Running his hand to the back of his head, he let out a low grunt. His fingers pulled away with the faint sign of blood on them. The pistol whip the brute had given him earlier had busted the back of his head open. His skull still felt as if rocks were pounding on it. His legs were also tired as hell from trying to run through all the mud. He had just realized he lost a shoe somewhere out there. Oh God, if he catches up with me, I don't know what to do. Levi looks around frantically, trying to find signs of the road or other people. Of course, there was nothing around. He had been trying to stay away from the road earlier in case Blackbone came after him in the truck. Maybe I've given him the slip. Not even 5 seconds after saying that, he hears a loud bellowing. Where are you, Levi? Don't you dare make me put a hole in your ass. It's Blackbone, right on his tail. Barely having enough time to control his panting, Levi takes off again, trying his best to stay to the heavily wooded side. He takes a look back and sees the Indian, but Blackbone is looking around like he hasn't seen Levi just yet. Deciding to duck down, Levi hides behind a large tree. If I'm lucky, he won't find me. As he watches the man search for him, he notices a large limb on the ground, the perfect size to knock someone out with. He reaches down and picks it up, praying he won't have to use it. But Blackbone is drawing close, Apparently, he's picked up the trail. Levi watches as the Indian bends down and looks at his footprints in the mud. He tries to duck behind the tree quickly, but the hunter's eyes fall on him. "Ah! There you are," he declares with a nasty smile on his lips. With pistol raised up in the air, Blackbone trudges over to Levi. Now, how about you come up? Now, how about you come on out from up there Now, how about you come on out from up behind there, eh? We don't want you getting dead, boy. Levi waits, almost too afraid to move. He knows Blackbone is getting closer. He can hear his boots squishing through the dense mud. He looks up to the sky, the heavy rain still falling hard, and takes a deep breath. He lets out a fierce battle cry as he jumps out from behind the tree and smashes the limb into Blackbone's gun hand, knocking the weapon out of his grasp and then bringing the makeshift bat down on his skull. Taken by surprise, Blackbone falls into the mud with a loud grunt of pain, blood trickling the side of his face. The blow was nearly strong enough to knock him out. He can see stars flying around. As Blackbone is lying in the mud trying to pick himself up, Levi gives him one last hit in the back, then takes off as fast as he can, completely surprised he was even able to pull that off. His heart beats fast, almost feeling as if it's going to burst from his chest. His lungs feel as if they're going to give out, but he doesn't stop. He keeps running to try to save his life. Finally, when he absolutely cannot run anymore, Levi sits down on some rocks next to a tree. The rain is still beating down on him. The clouds look even angrier than before. He takes a few deep breaths, trying to collect himself. He still has no idea where he is or where he needs to head to. He's even more lost than before. As far as he can figure, he's run for at least 1.5 miles, maybe even up to 3. He reaches into his pocket, hoping to find his cell, but just curses when he realizes he left it in his truck. "I don't know what to do. I don't even know where I am." He looks back up to the heavens. Those dark, ugly clouds were still covering up the sun and pelting him. Maybe with all this rain and mud, he can't catch up to me. I ran for a damn long time. Hopefully, he just can't. With that small hope in the back of his head, he gets up and continues on, trying to find some sort of safety. Getting up out of the muck, Blackbone wipes the swamp sludge off his face. He can see a bit of his blood mixed up with the mud from where Levi bashed him. He stands up and shakes off the pain, both his head and back throbbing wickedly after the assault. "Better be glad they want you alive, asshole," he mutters to himself. Blackbone saw which way the white man ran. Blackbone knows how to trek. He wouldn't dare give up now and risk angering his spirits back at Flat Rock.
Alright guys, tell them where you seen it at. If you like it, like it. And if you want to stay in touch, subscribe. We'll stay in touch. I'll even go check out your channel. Talk to you later. Bye.